Hello everybody, and welcome back to another David Peters Deep Dive with the Chameleons. Today I will be covering Peters's Basal Lepidosauria clade, which is a clade containing the most basal lepidosaurs, as well as a small group that is closely related to Basal Lepidosauria, and is made up of two families, Paleoguaniidae and Coelurosauridae, also known as the Triassic glider clade. So, let's get into it. Paleoguaniidae is a family of basal lepidosaurs. These are technically basal lepidosaurs because they're actually the most derived non-lepidosaurian lepidosaur forms. The first Paleoguaniid is Coletta seca, which in reality was a procolophonid from the early Triassic Induan of South Africa. Peters places it as the most basal member of Paleoguaniidae, but he makes no other odd claims about its physiology. The next Paleoguaniid is Pentosaurus magnadentis, which was in reality a basal procolophonid from the late Triassic, approximately 235 to 202 million years ago, of Uruguay. Peters places it as another basal Paleoguaniid, but does not make any other strange claims about it. The final member of the basal branch of Paleoguaniidae is Contritosaurus simus, which since 2000 has been synonymized with Pharmanthosaurus. It too was a procolophonid from the early Triassic Induan of Russia in reality. Peters places it again as basal Paleoguaniid, and once again he makes no strange claims about its anatomy. The next Paleoguaniid is Paleoguana whitei itself, which was in reality a Paleoguanid lepidosauromorph from the very early Triassic, 252 million years ago, of South Africa. Peters places it as a Paleoguaniid, not a Paleoguaniid, which I should avoid making them so that the names overlap, but apparently I haven't done that, so I will do that in future, but he places it as more derived than the previously mentioned creatures, so Coletta, Pentosaurus and Contritosaurus. He also does not make any odd claims about this one's physiology. The final and most derived Paleoguaniid is Sophinetta krakowiensis, which was in reality another basal lepidosauromorph from the early Triassic, 247 million years ago, of Poland, and as I said earlier, he places it as the most derived Paleoguaniid, and once again, he does not make any strange anatomical claims about it. Coelurosauridae, or the Triassic glider clade, is a clade made up of the most basal lepidosaurs, branching off before Rhynchocephalia, which also contains rhynchosaurs, Tritosauria, which contains pterosaurs and their ancestors, and Protosquamata, which contains squamates and their closest relatives. Almost all members of the clade could, or at least so Peters claims, glide. The first Coelurosauridae is Tridentinosaurus antiquus, which was a dubious genus of reptile, and its placement within Reptilia itself is uncertain, being variously placed as an Areoscelidian, which is an order of lizard-like basal reptiles, a Proterosaur, an order of basal archosauromorphs, or even a relative of Varanopsids, which are not reptiles but in fact a family of basal synapsids. Either way, it lived in the early Permian Congorian of Italy, and Peters places it as the most basal Coelurosaurid, and as such the most basal lepidosaur of them all, but he does not make any other odd claims about it. I also forgot to mention this, but the reason why it is regarded as dubious is because the fossil it is based on is forged. The next Triassic glider is Mecistotrachelos apeiros, which in reality was an indeterminate gliding archosauromorph, often thought to be a Proterosaur. It is known from the late Triassic, approximately 225 million years ago, of Virginia. Peters places it as more derived than Tridentinosaurus on the more basal branch of Coelurosauridae, but he does not make any odd claims about its anatomy. The next Coelurosauravid is Coelurosaurus giggli itself, which was, in reality, a Weigeltisaurid avicephalid, a clade containing both the Weigeltisaurs and the Trypanosaurs, as well as their closest relatives, from the late Permian, approximately 260 to 251 million years ago, of Madagascar. Peters places it as a sister taxon to Weigeltisaurus, with both being the most derived members of the more basal branch of Coelurosauravida. For some reason he gives it webbed fingers, something it did not have in reality. He also claims it may not have been able to actually glide, rather as ribs being a structure. It is worth noting that Coelurosaurus giggli is no longer a valid species of Coelurosaurus, and is now known as Weigeltisaurus giggli, which, in reality, was a Weigeltisaur from the late Permian, approximately 260 to 251 million years ago, of Germany and England. Peters places it as the sister taxon to Coelurosauravus, but does not make any odd claims about its physiology. The next Triassic glider is Lanthanolania ivac henenkoi, which was in reality a basal neodiapsid from the mid-Permian, 266 million years ago, of Russia. He places it as the most basal member of the more derived clade of Coelurosauravida, but he does not claim it was a glider, though he does claim it was a biped, something that wasn't in reality. Next Coelurosauravid is Ichthyosaurus cfkeri, which was in reality a Cuneosaurid, a family of gliding reptiles which were related to the ancestors of both the Archosaurs and the Lepidosauros, from the late Triassic, approximately 228 million years ago, of New Jersey, USA. Peters places it on the more derived branch of Coelurosauravida, and he gives it a head that appears slightly too blunt and lizard-like compared to the real thing. He also believes it had filamentous structures, and possibly even believes that these are an ancestral trait in all reptiles, and that feathers, pycnofibers, and hair were all derived from these structures. The penultimate Coelurosauravid is Cuneosaurus latus, which was in reality a Cuneosaurid from the late Triassic, approximately 216 to approximately 202 million years ago, of England and Luxembourg, France. It is one of the most derived Coelurosauravida, and the sister taxon to Jianglong on the LRT. Peters gives it webbed feet, something the real animal did not have. The final Triassic glider, and the final member of this clade as a whole, is Xianglong zhaoi, which in reality was a gliding lizard of some kind, possibly an acrodonton, which is the clade containing agamas and chameleons, from the early Cretaceous Barremian of China. On the LRT, it is placed as the most derived Coelurosauravid, alongside its sister taxon Cuneosaurus. Peters also gives it unrealistically webbed digits. And that was David Peters' Basal Lepidosauria. Thank you for watching. Next one will be out soonish, but before that I think there'll be a different video out. I'm not revealing what that will be. But yeah, I guess I'll see you then. I'll see you for the next Peters video. Hope you have a good day. And always remember Rule 9. Eat well, sleep soundly, maintain a happy disposition, and have sex often. Goodbye.